Today we discuss about broadcasting concept in Laravel. In this we have main topics like introduction, server side installation, client side installation, concept overview, defining broadcast events, authorizing channels, broadcasting events, receiving broadcasts, presence channels, model broadcasting, client events, and notifications. So these are the main topics, and apart from these, we have subtopics like configuration, reverb, pusher channels, ably, reverb, pusher channels, ably. These are client-side installation subtopics, and we have uh, using an example application now by describing the concept overview. And we have broadcast name, broadcast data, broadcast queue, broadcast conditions, broadcasting and database transactions, defining authorization callbacks, defining channel classes, only to others broadcasting events, customizing the connection, anonymous events, listening for events, leaving a channel, namespaces, authorizing presence channels, joining presence channels, broadcasting to presence channels, model broadcasting, convention, listening for model broadcasts. These are all the subtopics. So let's see one by one the main topic introduction. So in many modern web applications, WebSockets are used to implement a real-time, live updating user interfaces. When some data is updated on the server, so a message is typically sent over a WebSocket connection to be handled by the client. WebSockets provide a more efficient alternative to continually polling our application server for data changes that should be reflected in our user interface. So to assist us in building these types of features, so Laravel makes it easy to broadcast our server-side Laravel events over a WebSocket connection. So broadcasting our Laravel events allows us to share the same event names and data between our server-side Laravel application and our client-side JavaScript application. Server-side installation. Event broadcasting is accomplished by a server-side broadcasting driver that broadcasts our Laravel events so that Laravel echo, a JavaScript library, can receive them within the browser client. So let's see configuration. All of our applications event broadcasting configuration is stored in the config slash broadcasting.php. Laravel supports several broadcast drivers and that include Laravel Reaver, pusher channels, Ably, and a log driver for local development and debugging. Additionally, a null driver is also included which allows us to disable broadcasting during testing. A configuration example is also included for each of these drivers in the config slash broadcasting.php configuration file. Let's see installation. By default, broadcasting is not enabled in a new Laravel applications. So we may enable broadcasting using the install broadcasting artisan command. The command will be like this: php artisan install colon broadcasting. The install colon broadcasting command will create a config slash broadcasting.php configuration file. So in addition, the command will create the routes slash channels.php file where we may register our application's broadcast authorization routes and callbacks. View configuration. Before broadcasting any events, we should first configure and run a queue worker. All event broadcasting is done via queued jobs so that the response time of our application is not seriously affected by events being broadcast. Let's say reverb. When running the install colon broadcasting command, we will be prompted to install Laravel reverb. So we may also install reverb manually using the composer package manager by using following command. Composer required Laravel by reverb. Once the package is installed, we may run reverb's installation command to publish the configuration, add reverb's required environment variables, and enable event broadcasting in our application. So the command will be like this: php artisan reverb colon install. Now we see pusher channels. By using following command, we will be installing pusher channels. Composer require pusher by pusher-php-server. We should configure our pusher channels credentials in the config slash broadcasting.php configuration file. An example pusher channels configuration is already included in this configuration file, allowing us to quickly specify our key, secret, and application ID. We should configure our pusher channels credentials in our applications .env file. So it will be like this: pusher app ID, pusher app key, pusher app secret, pusher host, pusher port 443, pusher scheme HTTPS, pusher app cluster MTL. So the config slash broadcasting.php files pusher configuration also allows us to specify additional options that are supported by channels such as a cluster. Then set the broadcast underscore connection environment variable to pusher in our applications .env file. So it will be like this: broadcast underscore connection equal to pusher. Finally, we are ready to install and configure Laravel Echo, which will receive the broadcast events on the client side. Now we see Abli. So we use the following command to install Abli. So composer require Abli by abli-php. So next we should configure our Abli credentials in the config slash broadcasting.php configuration file. So there will be configuration settings like abli underscore key and broadcast underscore connection equal to abli we have to mention in .env file. Now we see client side installation. So reverb. Laravel Echo is a JavaScript library that makes to subscribe to channels and listen for events broadcast by our server side broadcasting server. So we may install Echo via the npm package manager. So we use command npm install hyphen hyphen save hyphen dev laravel hyphen echo pusher hyphen js. Pusher hyphen js package. So since Reverb utilizes pusher protocol for WebSocket subscriptions, channels, and message. Once Echo is installed, so we are ready to create a fresh Echo instance in our application's JavaScript. So a great place to do this is at the bottom of the resources JS bootstrap.js file that is included with the Laravel framework. So by default, an example echo configuration is ready included in this file. So we simply need to uncomment it and update the broadcaster configuration option to reverb. So it will be like this: import echo from Laravel hyphen echo, import pusher from pusher hyphen js, window.pusher equal to pusher, window.echo equal to new echo broadcaster reverb key WS host, WS port, WSS port, force TLS, enable transports. Like this, the configuration will be there. And next, we should compile our application's assets npm run build. By using this command, we compile our application's assets. Now, see pusher channels. Laravel Echo is a JavaScript library that makes so to subscribe to channels and listen our events broadcast by our server-side broadcasting driver. Echo also leverages the pusher.js npm package to implement the pusher protocol for WebSockets. So the install broadcasting artisan command automatically installs the Laravel Echo and pusher-js package. Next, we should define the appropriate values for pusher environment variables in our applications.env file. So, if these variables do not already exist in the .env file, so we should add them like pusher app ID, pusher app key, pusher app secret, pusher host, pusher port, pusher scheme, pusher app cluster, white app underscore name, white pusher app key, white pusher host, white pusher port, white pusher scheme, white pusher app cluster. So once we have adjusted the echo configuration according to our application's needs, we may compile our applications assets npm run build using an existing client instance. So if we already have a predefined, pre-configured pusher channels client instance that we would like to echo to utilize, we may pass it to echo via the client configuration option. Now we see Abli. Laravel Echo is a JavaScript library. So to subscribe to channels and listen for events broadcast by our server-side broadcasting server. So we see how do we have it client side. We are going to install the packages that listen to the Abli. So npm install hyphen hyphen save laravel hyphen echo pusher hyphen js. So we will be mentioning the configuration file as we have already discussed, which is mentioned in config slash broadcasting.php file. So we may have noticed our apply echo configuration references white underscore apply underscore public key in the configuration file. So key will be mentioned like import dot meta dot env dot white vite underscore apply underscore public underscore key. this variable's value should be our public key. Our public key is a portion of our public key that occurs before the colon character. And once we have configured, we have to run npm run dev command in order to compare our application assets. Now we see authorizing channel. So broadcast double colon channel method is used in order to authorize channels. So users must be authorized to listen on private channels. We may define our channel authorization rules in our applications routes slash channel stuff php. The channel method accepts two arguments, the name of the channel and a callback which returns true or false indicating whether the user is authorized to listen on the channel. All authorization callbacks receive the currently authenticated user as the first argument and any additional wildcard parameters as a subsequent argument. Listening for event broadcasts. Next, all that remains is listen for the event in our JavaScript application. So we can do this using Laravel echo. So echo dot private of orders or dollar order ID listen. So order shipment status updated. So within that control dot log e dot header. So like this we'll be using the listening for event broadcasts. Defining broadcast event. So to inform Laravel that a given event should be broadcast, so we must implement the should broadcast interface on the event class. Eliminate contracts broadcasting should broadcast interface. The should broadcast interface requires first to implement a single method broadcast on. The broadcast on method should return a channel or array of channels that the event should broadcast on. The channels should be instances of channel, private channel, or presence channel. Instances of channel represent public channels that any user may subscribe to, while private channels and presence channels represent private channels that require channel authorization. After implementing should broadcast interface, we only need to fire the event as we normally would. So once the event has been fired, a queued job will automatically broadcast the event using our specified broadcast driver. Broadcast name. By default, Laravel will broadcast the event using the events class name. So we may customize the broadcast name by defining a broadcast as method on the event. So if we customize broadcast name using the broadcast as method, so we should make sure to register our listener with a leading dot character. So this will instruct echo to not pretend the application's namespace to the event. Broadcast data. When an event is broadcast, all of its public properties are automatically serialized and broadcast as an event's payload, allowing us to access any of its public data from our JavaScript application. If we wish to have more fine-grained control over the broadcast payload, so we may add a broadcast with method to our event. So this method should return an array of data that we wish to broadcast as a event payload. Broadcast queue. So by default, each broadcast event is based on the default queue for the default queue connection specified in our queue.php configuration file. So we may customize the queue connection and name used by the broadcaster by defining connection and the queue properties on our event class. Dollar connection, public dollar connection equal to Redis, public dollar queue equal to default. So alternatively, we may customize the queue name by defining a broadcast queue method on our event. Broadcast queue method. So if you would like to broadcast our event using the sync queue instead of the default queue driver, we can implement the should broadcast now interface instead of should broadcast. Should broadcast now interface instead of should broadcast. So broadcast conditions. Sometimes we want to broadcast our event only if a given condition is true. So if we may define these conditions by adding a broadcast when method to our event class. Broadcasting and database transactions. When broadcast events are dispatched within database transactions, we may process those by queue before database transaction has committed. When this happens, any updates you have made to models or database records during the database transaction may not yet be reflected in the database. So in addition, any models or database records created within the transaction may not exist in the database. If our queue connections after underscore commit configuration option is set to false, so we may still indicate that a particular broadcast event should be dispatched after all open database transactions have been committed by implementing the should dispatch after commit interface on the event class. Should dispatch after commit interface. Authorizing channels. Private channels require us to authorize that the currently authenticated user can actually listen on the channel. So this is accomplished by making an HTTP request to our Laravel application with the channel name and allowing our application to determine if the user can listen on that channel. When using Laravel Echo, the HTTP request to authorize subscription to private channels will be made automatically. When broadcasting is enabled, Laravel automatically registers the broadcasting / auth route to handle authorization requests. The broadcasting / auth route is automatically placed within the web middleware group. Now we see defining authorization callbacks. We need to define the logic that will actually determine if the currently authenticated user can listen to a given channel. This is done in the routes/channels.php file that was created by the install broadcasting artisan command. So in this file we may use the broadcast channel method to register channel authorization callbacks. The channel method accepts two arguments as we have discussed previously, the name of the channel and a callback which returns true or false indicating whether the user is authorized to listen on the channel. We may view list of our application's broadcast authorization callbacks using the channel list artisan command. So the command will be like this: php artisan channel list. Authorization callback model binding. Just like HTTP routes, channel routes may also be take advantage of implicit and explicit route model binding. So for example, instead of receiving a string or numeric order ID, we may request an actual order model instance. So authorization callback authentication. Private and presence broadcast channels authenticate the current user via our application's default authentication card. So if the user is not authenticated, channel authorization is automatically denied and authorization callback is never executed. So we may assign multiple custom cards that should authenticate the incoming request if necessary. Defining channel classes. So if our application is consuming many different channels, our routes slash channels.php file could become bulky. So instead of using closures to authorize channels, we may use channel classes. To generate a channel class, use the make colon channel artisan command. So PHP artisan make colon channel order channel. So this artisan command is used to create a channel. So next we register our channel in our routes slash channels.php file. So by making use of channel method, first we type hint use app slash broadcasting slash order channel. Next we register by making use of channel methods. So broadcast double colon channel orders dot within braces order comma order channel double colon class. So finally, we may place the authorization logic for our channel in the channel class. Join method. The join method will house the same logic we would have typically placed in our channel authorization closure. So we may also take advantage of channel model binding. This mainly this channel contains broadcasting channel plus contain join method. So within the join method, we will be writing the code. So broadcasting events. Once we have defined an event and marked it with should broadcast interface, we only need to fire the event using the events dispatch method. The dispatcher will notice that event is marked with should broadcast interface and will queue the event for broadcasting. So for example, use app slash events slash order shipment status updated. So now that is the order shipment status updated is called order shipment status updated double colon dispatcher dollar order. Like this we will be using broadcasting event. Configuration. So when we utilize a Laravel echo instance, a socket ID is assigned to the connection. So if we are using a global Axios instance to make HTTP requests from our JavaScript application, the socket ID will be automatically attached to every outgoing request as an x-socket-id header. So then when you call the two others method, Laravel will extract the socket ID from the header and instruct the broadcaster to not broadcast to any connections with the socket ID. So where socket ID is equal to echo dot socket ID. This method is used to retrieve the socket ID. Now we see customizing the connection. We will be using via method. Alternatively, we may specify the events broadcast connection by calling the broadcast via method within the events constructor. via method and broadcast via method. We see anonymous event. So we may want to broadcast a simple event to our application's front end without creating a dedicated event class. So to accommodate this, the broadcast packet allows us to broadcast anonymous events. So broadcast double colon on orders dot order ID send method. Using as and with methods, we may customize the event's name and data. If we would like to broadcast the anonymous event on a private or presence channel, we may utilize the private and presence methods. Private broadcast double colon private orders dot order ID send broadcast double colon presence channels dot channel ID send. Broadcasting an anonymous event using the send method dispatches the event to our application's queue for processing. If you would like to broadcast the event immediately, we may use the send now method. Receiving broadcasts. Before that, we have one method to broadcast the event to all channel subscribers except the currently authenticated users. We can invoke the two others method. We see receiving broadcasts. Listening for events. Once we have installed and instantiated Laravel Echo, we are ready to start listening for events that are broadcast from our applications, Laravel application. First, use the channel method to retrieve an instance of a channel, then call the listen method to listen for a specified event. If you would like to listen for events on a private channel, use the private method instead. So we may continue to chain calls to the listen method to listen for multiple events on a single channel. Like this will be using the private method. Stop listening for events. So we will be using stop listening method. Leaving a channel, we will be using leave channel method. If you would like to leave a channel and also its associated private and presence channels, we may call the leave method. Namespaces. So we will be using namespace configuration option. So that will automatically assume the events are located in app events namespace. We may prefix event classes with a dot when subscribing to them using echo. So like echo dot channel of orders dot listen of dot namespace double slash event double slash class. So like this we will be using um, dot operators when subscribing to them using echo. Presence channels. Presence channels build on the security of private channels while exposing the additional feature of awareness of who is subscribed to the channel. So this makes it easy to build powerful collaborative application features such as notifying users when another user is viewing the same page or listening the inhabitants of a platform. So authorizing presence channels. All presence channels are also private channels. Therefore, users must be authorized to access them. So when defining authorization callbacks for presence channels, we will not return true if the user is authorized to join the channel. So we should return an array of data about the user. The data returned by the authorization callback will be made available to the presence channel event listeners in our JavaScript application. If the user is not authorized to join the presence channel, so we should return false or null. Joining presence channels. To join a presence channel, we may use join echoes join method. So the join method will return a presence channel implementation which along with exposing the listen method allows us to subscribe to the here joining and leaving events. The here callback will be executed immediately once the channel is joined successfully and will receive an array containing the user information for all of the other user currently subscribed to the channel. The joining method will be executed when a new user joins the channel, while the leaving method will be executed when a user leaves the channel. The error method will be executed when the authentication endpoint returns an HTTP status code other than 200 or if there is a problem parsing the return JSON. Broadcasting to presence channel. Presence channels may receive events just like public or private channels. So, using the examples of the chat room, we may want to broadcast new message events to the room's presence channels. To do so, we will return an instance of presence channel from the events broadcast on method. As with other events, we may use the broadcast helper and the two others method to exclude the current user from receiving the broadcast. Broadcast a new message of dollar message. Broadcast a new message of dollar message to others. Model broadcasting. It's common to broadcast events when our application's eloquent models are created, updated, or deleted. This can easily be accomplished by manually defining custom events for eloquent model store changes and marking those events with the should broadcast interface. Our eloquent model should use broadcasts events trajectory. So the model should define a broadcast on method which will return an array of channels that the model's events should broadcast on. Customizing model broadcasting event creation. So we will be using new broadcastable event method on our eloquent model. So this method should return on illuminate database eloquent broadcastable model event occurred instance. So if you want to customize how Laravel creates the underlying model broadcasting event, so for that we will be using new broadcastable event method on our eloquent model. Now you see model broadcasting convention, kernel conventions. So the broadcast on method in the model example above did not return channel instances. So instead, eloquent models were returned directly. If an eloquent model instance is returned by our model's broadcast on method, uh, Laravel will automatically instantiate a private channel instance for the model using the model's class name and primary key identifier as the channel name. If you want to determine the channel name of a model, so we may call the broadcast channel method on any model instance. Event conventions. Since model broadcast events are not associated with an actual event within our application's app events directory, they are assigned a name and payload based on conventions. Laravel's conventions is to broadcast the event using the class name of the model and the name of the model event that triggered the broadcast. Like this, we will be using model configuration option. Listening for model broadcasts. Once we have added broadcasts, events, try it to our model and defined our model's broadcast on method, we are ready to start listening for broadcasted model events within our client-side application. We use the private method to retrieve an instance of a channel, then call the listen method to listen for a specified event. The channel name given to the private method should correspond to Laravel's model broadcasting convention. Client events. When using pusher channels, we must enable the client events option in the app settings section of our application dashboard in order to send client events. Sometimes we may want to broadcast an event to other connected clients without hitting our Laravel application at all. So this can be particularly useful for things like typing notifications where we want to alert users of our application that another user is typing a message on a given screen. To broadcast client events, we may use echoes whisper method. To broadcast client events, we may use echoes whisper method. So it will be like this: echo dot private hot dot dollar room ID dot whisper typing comma name this dot user dot name. So to listen for client events, we may use the listen for whisper method. So echo dot private chart dot data room ID dot listen for whisper typing comma e console dot logout e dot name. Notifications. By pairing event broadcasting with notifications, our JavaScript application may receive new notifications as they occur without needing to refresh the page. Once we have configured a notification to use broadcast channel, we may listen for the broadcast event using echoes notification method. We can listen for the broadcast events using echoes notification method once we have configured a notification to use the broadcast channel. It will be like this: echo.private of app.models.user dot dollar user id dot notification of notification console.log of notification dot type. So like this, all notifications sent to app models user node instances in this example where the broadcast channel would be received by the callback. A channel authorization callback for the app.models.user ID channel is included in our application's routes slash channels.php file. This is all about broadcasting concept in Laravel. Thank you so much. This is the Universal Horse Star Ravindar Reddy Yampalla. Thanks to all of my fans, supporters, and followers, and special thanks to all of my YouTube subscribers.